In this section, what we're going to do is talk about one of the ways to modify the output of a Drupal node, which is through view modes. Now, this has the word view in it, but it has nothing to do with the views module. This is view as in when the node is constructed and then displayed. So that view that is finally displayed is a view mode. So we're going to talk about the role of a view mode, when you'd want to use a variation on a view mode instead of one of the other techniques for modifying output, and explore where you can modify the options for view modes in the user interface in Drupal core. So the role of a view mode is to modify the output of a node in a particular way that can be reused throughout different contexts. The idea is that one view mode is aligned with a particular context. So in core Drupal, it comes shipped with multiple types of view nodes, including full page and teaser, RSS view, and search index and search result. Those are all of the different view modes that are built in. But view modes can also be extended. Now, if you've worked with previous versions of Drupal, then you might be familiar with the term build mode. And view mode is really a synonymous term, but in Drupal 7 we moved over to view modes instead of build modes. Let's talk about some of these different view modes. The full page view mode is used when a node is displayed on its own page and we want to see all of the content. You can contrast this with the teaser view mode, in which the content is cut short in order to be displayed in lists of content. For example, a teaser will display on the home page, River of News, or typically in taxonomy term lists of nodes that match a particular term. The RSS view mode will add some additional XML markup around the content so that it can be properly displayed and parsed out by RSS readers. The search index view mode will construct a piece of content so that it can be properly indexed by the Drupal search engine or by any attached search engines. And so this will never actually be displayed physically on a page, but is used simply to build that content. So for example, we might include certain content that needs to be indexed by the search engine that we wouldn't necessarily display to the end user in most contexts. The search result, however, will display in the search result page in the Drupal search if the search module is enabled. While there are these default view modes, we may want to extend them and add an additional view mode if we have a context that doesn't quite line up with one of the existing contexts or existing view modes. For example, say we have a functionality where a user can tell a friend about a node, and some of the content of that node will be pulled into the email that gets sent out. The advantage to using a view mode for something like this is that we expose the structure of the node that gets included with our refer a friend email to the administrator of the site, and they can easily adjust the order or the format of the various fields that get included inside of that email. This view mode is also passed to various points in the node construction process so that modules can plug in and decide to take action based on a particular view mode. Typically, a view mode is added programmatically through code, through a module, but there's also a module that we can install, a contributed module called Display Suite, which will allow us to add additional build modes through the user interface, and we'll explore that in future videos. Now, a common way to adjust node output across various contexts is to use the Views module. Through the Views module, we can create a list of content and granularly modify how the output of that node displays. So for example, we can rearrange fields, hide fields, change labels on the fields, or the way that the field is output. We can do all of the same things through a view mode, and the advantage of doing it through a view mode is that we can then reuse that structure across multiple contexts or in multiple views. So for example, if you create a view and you use the field's display type in order to rearrange the fields and display the fields in a particular way, there's no way to then copy that and reuse it in another view and have the changes sync up when you change the display of that particular view. When we use a view mode, however, we can have one interface for changing the build order of that node, so which fields display in which order and how those fields display. And when we change it, we can change it in any view that uses that view mode. So instead of using fields for a particular output in a view, we can use a view mode instead and be able to consistently know that when we make a change, that it will run across all of the different views that use that view mode. This also has the benefit of simplifying the configuration interface for site builders, so that instead of going into the views configuration, which can be very confusing because there's a lot to it, we instead use the view mode configuration form, which is simpler and has very specific tasks that it tackles.